Emergence means something new arises that wasn't here before. But scientifically, how the fuck does that happen? How do you bring particles or planets or anything together and all of a sudden the whole has some properties that none of the parts had? Like, where do they come from? How do you have a cell that respirates, made up of molecules, none of whom respirate? Properties of whole systems that aren't found in any of the parts taken separately, which also means that are fundamentally unpredicted by the parts taken separately, which portends a future that is fundamentally, ontologically unpredictable. It's considered the closest thing to magic that's actually a scientifically kind of admissible term. Synergy and emergence are two sides of the same phenomenon. So synergy is this property of relationship where the whole has new properties that the parts didn't have. Emergence is a result of synergy. Synergy is a result of relationship. And relationship is a result of attractive forces. Whether it's gravity bringing dust together into planets or planets together into solar systems, whether it's electromagnetism bringing subatomic particles together into atoms, or the strong force bringing quarks together into protons, or whether it's bringing these people together via pheromones or love or intellectual affinity or a topic that we're all interested in. Each of those are emergent properties driven by synergy, driven by relationship, driven by attractive forces as expressions of a fundamental principle of allurement by which separate things have reason to come together that offers advantage that being separate doesn't have. Imagine if that wasn't the case. Imagine if we had a universe where allurement wasn't a fundamental principle of it, and the whole thing would have stopped at quantum foam. Evolution in complexity theory is defined most generally in terms of more elegantly ordered complexity. Bringing things together doesn't give you emergent properties. Bringing them together in a particularly elegantly ordered way does. Think about all the parts that make up a cell, right? You've got all these non-living parts, DNA and cell nucleus structures and all the different organelles and cytoplasm, and they're all not living. And then the cell is living. But if you brought all those parts together but you didn't arrange them as a cell, it was just a bunch of molecules, it wouldn't be that interesting, right? It'd just be goo. If you took the 50 trillion cells that made you and you didn't arrange them exactly this way and you just had like 150 pounds worth of cells, it would be much less interesting. Even though there'd be just as much complexity, you wouldn't have an order in the complexity where the emergent property comes. It's not just heaps coming together, it's not just complexity, it's wholes. And the difference between a whole and a heap is order, and a specific set of patterns of order. This means not every relationship is synergistic. Some relationships are entropic. But you can bring chemicals together that rather than self-organizing to create higher ordered molecules with new thermodynamic properties, they have an exothermic entropic reaction and they drop to lower levels of organization, right? So it's not just relationship, it's specific kinds of relationship that maximize synergy. It's also the case that if you bring the same thing together, a bunch of the same thing, you don't get very interesting synergies. You get very interesting synergies when you bring different things with different properties together in the right format, where then you have the properties of each of those things and then the properties of the relationship between those, which is the new stuff. And so you've got hydrogen and you've got oxygen, which are different things, and you bring them together and you get water in the basis for life, but neither hydrogen nor oxygen at room temperature are liquids. So we're actually very interested in having deep synergistic relationships with differences that lead to fundamentally new emerging properties. And then that new property offers some evolutionary advantage to that system. So things can come together all kinds of ways, but the ones that come together most synergistically offer and confer the most advantage, and universe selects for it. So universe is actually selecting for more diversity and more unification across the diversity, more agency and more symbiosis at the same time.